Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We want to bring in now Republican Congressman Warren Davidson of Ohio as we wait for this. I don't know how much of this you have been able to hear, but this idea that Rod Rosenstein is about to announce indictments against Russian individuals who are posing as Americans during the election, and the fact that it sounds like, from what we can see so far, and we're still waiting for clarification, that they were in, trying to create support for both Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. What do you think?
Well, I think it's good that this is coming to light. One of my classmates, Clint Watts, generally commenting on the left side, but one of the pieces of information that's out there is finally coming to light in this indictment that it's not in question whether Russia tried to influence our election. That's not anything new back to the Soviet days. The question is, what is the bar for saying collusion? Everyone's tried to turn this debate into a narrative about Donald Trump or his campaign, and I think the important thing for us as we go into another election year is to understand how Russia has tried to influence American thought related to our electoral process, related to our confidence in our rule of law in our election system. And I think, we need to take serious action to mitigate that risk and deal with the threat.
Yeah.
And I think holding people criminally accountable will be a good step.
It's interesting. I want to ask you about this specifically because you would know from campaigning, but Catherine Herridge highlighted for us that at least one of these individuals was trying to make contact with a campaign official, number 2, they call them, but they say that they were down in Florida. When you talk about people that might be in the field offices of a presidential campaign, I wonder the level of sophistication, especially in a Trump campaign where it wasn't a well-oiled machine that had been in place for a long time, that a lot of it was volunteer-driven. And if somebody is reaching out and pretending to be someone else, what's the level of sophistication on the campaign side in what might be a field office?
Well, only in 6 counties I campaigned in, and we had some of those same challenges. You get people that say things online. It used to be my criteria for social media was, if I called this person or they called me, would I take time to meet with them? And when you're in campaign mode, the answer is, of course, yes, I'll meet with you.
Yeah.
And that's a fairly low bar. And so you get these superficial levels of connections, and people want to make a lot of hay about superficial connections on social media. The question is, how much deeper did that go? At what level? I think we'll find the truth. And really, hopefully keep the sight of the big picture is what has been the Russian influence in our process, and how can we make sure that all of our elections are protected, and so that the American people have confidence that their vote counts.
Yeah. And as you see Rod Rosenstein come out and make this announcement about these indictments, what does it tell you, if anything, about where we are in this investigation? The American people have been hearing about it for a long time, and they would just like, I think, a conclusion.
Yeah, I think the good news is people have had a hard time hanging with Attorney General Sessions over a number of things related to this investigation in particular. But we saw under the previous administration the politicization of the Department of Justice, and we've seen some real concerns about that as we've talked about memos and things like that. But I think Attorney General Sessions was right to say, look, we want to appoint a special prosecutor. Hopefully we do a better job of making sure that the special prosecutor's office is seen as above reproach and is in fact above reproach. There's been a lot of cause for concern that this has turned from an investigation into an inquisition. I think this finding and this initial indictment shows that it really has had an investigation into what exactly Russia's been. And I think a lot of us had concern that it had been narrowly focused on Trump and not broadly focused on the bigger problem.
And at this point, is there any chance that was misguided? That idea that it was focused on the president? When you look back at what were the indications that was the case, was it about the witnesses that were called or the leaks that were coming out, or?
Well, yeah, it's been about the leaks for sure. It's been about the structure of his own team. If you look at the team that Mueller appointed, it wasn't really that Sessions appointed a special prosecutor. He wanted to create clear distance so that the Department of Justice was seen as not politicized like it was under the previous administration. But when Mueller was picked and the number of Clinton allies that wound up on that team, in a town full of lawyers, it's amazing how many people on his teteam have the close ties.
I'm going to stand you by for a moment. We're underway. Let's listen in.
An indictment presented by the Special Counsel's Office. The indictment charges 13